Okay.
Welcome to a special live edition of CBJ in 30, the 2016 NHL Trade Deadline Show. Here to break it all down from Madison Square Garden in New York City are Bob McGilligan and Jody Shelley.
And welcome to Madison Square Garden. I take on the New York Rangers. Right now, we've just gone past the NHL Trade Deadline. 3 o'clock. That was the foul. That's when everything has to be at least submitted, and then they process it, and there could be trades that come out as the next 30 minutes or so go on. But we can tell you this, it looks like the Blue Jackets stood pat today and didn't do anything in the way of making a trade. Jody, does that surprise you?
I think maybe a little bit, and of course things could still happen, but you know, the anticipation for the trade deadline is so high. We've heard the names of some veteran players that could be dealt. I think every single organization and fan is excited to see where their team has made an impact on this day. We've seen a lot of teams that are deep in the playoffs really make some noise, but the Blue Jackets, obviously, they have a plan, and they're not going to alter from their plan. And we're going to talk to GM Kekalainen here shortly, and you know, if people are trying to steal people away from the Blue Jackets, well, there's some players that they're not willing to give up. So, and they probably asked a lot in return for some of their players. So, you know, it's funny, we're part of the group now that has been talking about trades and waiting for trades all day. So it's funny, I've been watching them all day talk about scenarios and what could happen. And here we are talking about the Blue Jackets and what could happen, joining the masses.
Yes, absolutely. And the two guys that were talked about the most because of the amount of money they make and the term of their contract were Fedor Tutin and Scott Hartnell. Those were two names that were bandied about here the last couple of weeks. We did see some defensemen move today. Former Blue Jacket Chris Russell went from the Calgary Flames to the we're just going dark here. You can still hear us.
We got a light tick.
Yeah, here we go. We do. We're in New York, baby. This gets taken care of. They fix it immediately here. There's no messing around here. But anyway, Chris Russell went from the Calgary Flames to the Dallas Stars. Looks like John Michael Lyles has been traded by the Carolina Hurricanes to the Boston Bruins. You know, in both of these cases, I think in Tutin and Hartnell, was there a rush to trade these guys right now? And you know, obviously not. And if they were going to get something, apparently the asking price was too high. Nashville was rumored to be in on Hartnell, or they were at least inquiring, kicking tires all the way back to the trade for Ryan Johansson. So you know, they didn't do it. So again, you don't really have to pull a trigger today.
No, and you have the asset now, so you don't give them away just to give them away. I mean, Scotty Hartnell probably would love to be wanted and be dealt to a team that's going to go on a Stanley Cup run. Who knows? But I also know that he loves being here in Columbus. So for him, he's got a no trade clause and no move clause. So he really holds the cards, and there's some teams that would love to have him as that veteran player. But hey, the Blue Jackets haven't traded him. They've kept a good asset in him. Fedor Tutin's a guy who's, you know, kind of in and out with the new coach, John Tortorella, and that's hard for him. He's a veteran guy. He's been in Columbus for a long time now. He came here from the Rangers, and he's a guy that's just low maintenance, awesome team player, and still got some good game in him. He's probably a guy, I talked to him earlier today, wasn't going to nap today. He wasn't going to nap, and you know, had a little bit of anticipation that maybe he would be going somewhere. So he's one of those guys who would maybe look at that opportunity with a welcome open arms. And if it didn't happen, well, you know, he's still now with this team. Not a terrible thing. His family loves Columbus and everything. So, you know, there's goods and bads. There's different ways to look at it. But those two veteran players, if nothing happens, they will sense relief and then relax. And, you know, that's exciting in itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you say, with Fedor Tutin, he's got a family. So that anticipation of not knowing is something that eats at you all day. I asked John Tortorella about that earlier today, about players and that anticipation, if that can affect them in the game, because normally you have lunch, maybe you take a nap.
Yeah.
Well, when there's no nap today, now you've been on pins and needles. Now 3 o'clock comes, now you relax, but lo and behold, you're only about an hour and a half from the bus to come to the rink.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. It's not just today. Today is the deadline, and when you see pieces being moved, when you see Andrew Ladd go back to Chicago, that was the piece that really everyone was waiting for. And you know, the players that their names were out there, then they knew that things were coming quick. So you think about this, it's really been the last week. Phone calls from your parents, phone calls from your neighbors, phone call, you know, everywhere you go. your brothers. Everybody wants to know where you're going, and you're just always thinking about it, even when you're trying not to. So, 3 o'clock is a kind of a weird time, though. I remember when we were in Columbus, Lodeline got traded. I think he went to Pittsburgh or maybe Florida from Columbus. I don't recall. But he was on the way to the airport, and he called me and said, well, I guess I'm not traded, and because they'd pushed back the flight time. So we get to the plane, and it was only a short 15 minutes after that. Where's Odie? Oh, he got traded. It was like a quick sequence. So when this deadline comes, it's not done. We know that from last year, and we know that from experience that, there could be another hour, even longer, where trades start rolling in.
Yeah, James Wisniewski's trade didn't go through until about 3:30 last year.
That's
somewhere
right.
like that. So it did go late. But again, it's being reported. Aaron Portzline has tweeted that Jarmo Kekalainen says there will be no trades for the Blue Jackets. There was a little bit of, some angst, I guess, earlier today amongst you, the fan base, because Kirby Reichel left the building. He got actually got sent down to the Lake Erie Monsters. But what you have to understand, and Jonas Korpisalo did too, but what happens with these players is you have to make that transaction so that they're eligible to play in the Calder Cup playoffs in the American Hockey League. They've got to be on that roster today. And even though that's just a paper transaction where you send them down, Kirby didn't skate today. So, a lot of people were wondering if he was involved in some kind of a deal. He wasn't. He's just going down so he can play in the playoffs. And that's what you want these young guys to do. The playoffs, if it's not going to be done up here, then they've got to go down there and get that experience.
That's right. What about guys like Wenberg and that? Do they have to be? I mean, he's on a two-way contract. Carlson?
He is, but I think he has played correct me if I'm wrong on this, or I'd have to find out if I'm wrong. I think he's played so many games that he would have to clear waivers now.
Okay.
So that's something that's not going to happen. Yes, I think ideally, to me, that would be, you got Ryan Murray on an entry-level contract.
Stack it up down
Seth
there.
Jones on an entry-level contract. Alexander Wenberg. I'd send them all down there and let them win the league. But now there's some you can only finagle so much.
Right. And that makes sense, I guess. I mean, who wouldn't be doing that when you're out of the playoffs, right? I mean, you'd really have those teams stacked up. And it sounds like Toronto has got a good team down there already, and it sounds like the Erie Monsters do too.
Yeah, and it's kind of weird with the playoffs in the American Hockey League too, because your players have to go with the right mindset, and they have to go on a mission to win and get the job done. And you know how it is. You've been there. Some guys, even some of the older guys there, the paychecks stop coming in the playoffs. So there are literally some guys that are ready to check out and they're ready to go.
That's right.
But not the competitors and not the veteran guys that are looking for the opportunity to get exposed to all the other organizations as they're looking for a job for next year. So believe me, when that team goes into the playoffs down there, they'll have the right mindset. Ryan Craig will have them with the right mindset to go deep into the playoffs, because that's going to be a big chance for a lot of those players. A guy like Oliver Bjorkstrand, the Sonny Milanos, Jonas Korpisalo now, he'll probably be told, look, you got to go down there and help to carry this team deep in the playoffs. So that will be a challenge, and they will be watched.
And that's what you want. You want your young guys to win, be a part of the winning culture. And Detroit has done it with their team in the last few years. That Grand Rapids team won the Calder Cup down there in the American League. And then now those guys, there's a stack of them that are in the lineup night after night and have an impact in this league. So including their goaltender, Mrazek. So those things are very, very good things for organizations. And, that's that's why those transactions are made today, thinking about those guys' future.
Yes, they have to be. And trust me, I can tell you this, when those people in the Lake Erie Monsters front office today are waiting for that transaction to come through.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the minor leagues, you're sitting there going, well, I hope they send this guy down. I hope they send this guy down. And then if they don't, for whatever reason, he's played too much, we want him to just kind of chill out and then go into the offseason workout routine. You're down there going, doggone it. That's the guy that could take you over the top when you're in the American Hockey League. So Kirby Reichel and Jonas Korpisalo did clear today for that purpose, so that they can play in the playoffs with the Lake Erie Monsters. But Korpisalo is going to start right here at Madison Square Garden against the Rangers tonight. As you're looking through some of the stuff that went through, anything new come through here?
Looks like, the Islanders made a little bit of a trade. They're the one team that I looked at that they're in the top of the Metropolitan, and Washington has made some big trades. The Rangers, obviously, with Stahl, they've done some tinkering. And I was wondering if the Islanders were going to do anything. Shane Prince goes to Long Island, and a 2016 7th-round pick for a third-round pick with Ottawa. So that's a very small trade for the Islanders. But it's interesting to watch some of these teams, definitely out west. Chicago started it with Ladd, and then Dallas has picked up our old friend Chris Russell. And Chris Russell's the guy. I mean, and these are the top teams. These are the teams that are going to be. They're in. They're going for the cup. And to pick up Chris Russell, I think is a nice thing for Dallas. Mobile defenseman. He'll block any kind of shot. And if you think about the playoffs, you need extra bodies. You can't run out of bodies in the third round. You need a guy like Russell to be able to play big minutes, that grinding style of hockey night after night, especially in the West. Those guys are just going to beat each other up out there. So these teams have loaded up on some players, and I like that one, I think, a lot for that team because, well, we know him personally,
right,
too. So we know what they're getting in a person, and they seem to have done a great job. Jim Nill has done a great job there with those, just getting great people that Chris Russell style. So hopefully he goes there and takes a good run at the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about the Dallas Stars. When we played them last, we talked about how they can be a run-and-gun team. They're not necessarily a playoff team. They haven't been built as a playoff team because they're winning games 6-5 in the early part of the season. They're just lofting the puck and trying to get it over the heads of the defensemen and taking off. And then when teams make that adjustment and they shut that off, then they struggle. So that'll be good for them to have a guy like him who is going to shot block and is going to bring some of that that style of play to the back end.
Yeah, no, that's huge. And then you look at another team in Colorado. They get Bodker from Phoenix. And then, you know, you look at the top teams like we talked about in the West, but then you look at Colorado who's surviving, and they're back in the 8th spot now in the Western Conference, they're just ahead of Minnesota. And you get a guy like Bodker. He's an excellent athlete. He's strong. He's a powerful skater. You've already got McKinnon there, who's like a lightning bolt, how fast he is. Then you've got a couple other guys that are fast. Now you put this guy in the front end. They're going to be a dangerous team up front. I know their back end is where they need to shore up a little bit. And they give up the veteran Tanguay, who's now gone to Phoenix, and he's a guy that's with that playoff experience. It's nice to have. But they're gone young, they're gone fast, and I think they're going to be a fun team to watch up front.
And they also picked up a defenseman today. Eric Jelena went from the New Jersey Devils out to the Colorado Avalanche, too. So they did some tinkering on the back end.
For like a third-round pick, I think.
Yeah.
Much.
Yeah, it wasn't much at all, yeah. It's a 2017 draft pick, as a matter of fact.
That's right.
So, you know, that team, the Colorado Avalanche, getting Bodker. Bodker was the name that was thrown around. He was going to Florida. He was going to the Chicago Blackhawks. He was going to the Pittsburgh Penguins.
It was almost a sweepstakes on him, huh?
Yeah, out of nowhere.
Once Ladd went.
Right.
And it was like they were searching for names to throw around.
Right.
But he's definitely a guy.
Yeah, they found him because he is an unrestricted free agent. So player. All right, Jarmo Kekalainen is going to join us here in just a second. He is being brought in back in Columbus where he stayed so that they could kind of buckle down and decide if there would be a trade or no trade. So, Jarmo, the answer was no trade. You guys decided to stand pat today, not make any moves. What was it? Did you come close at all? Was there anything out there that at least piqued your interest a little bit? Excuse me.
Quiet day, to be honest with you. I've been in the business for 20 years, and this was one of the most quiet days of my career in any role. And we were here early this morning and looked at all the options. And as we've said many times before, all our decisions are going to be based on the long-term benefit of the club and the future of our club. So we weren't going to get into anything that would jeopardize that philosophy. And none of the options today that were on the table made any sense for us in the long term.
Does that speak to the quality of your youth in this team, and teams just know that they're not going to be able to pick players off the pile here?
I think it does. Cleveland's playing very well right now. They're 11 games above 500 and in pace to make the playoffs. Our young players are improving and getting into bigger roles and having success in the NHL level. And we're obviously not going to mortgage the future to get benefit in the short term. So everybody's after our young guys and our future, but that's not something that we're interested in.
And when you talk about getting better for the short term here, Jarmo, when a month ago, maybe you look at this whole trade deadline with a different perspective because your team is playing much better in the last 4 weeks, now starting to play the way I'm sure you had envisioned that it would play from the start of the season. So does that factor in as well when you're playing well and things are
starting to play well in the NHL level and getting into bigger roles, like I mentioned, and it's the team success is improving because of that. Korpisalo's play is a big part of it, obviously, and guys like Wenberg and Carlson getting into bigger roles, Kirby Reichel. So it's good to see, and the success of the team obviously good as well. But we have 20 games left, and we want to compete in every game. That's how you build a winning culture here, and quiet day. I don't know what else to say here, but we tried everything that we could to make things happen and improve the club in the long term, but just didn't happen today.
Jarmo, you sound a little disappointed. Is it one of those things where you had big plans today and you were hoping things were going to fall a little bit better?
I'm not disappointed. We're going to continue this in the off season, and that's the process. This is just one date here, the deadline date, and it passed today, and we're going to continue working, and we've got a big draft coming up here again this off season, and we're going to do well there, and there are a lot of things that we can do before that too.
Talking with General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen, and this trade deadline day, of course, we all blow it up because it is a deadline, but it seems like most of the deals and the big deals, of course, you made a really big one about a month ago. The Johansson-Seth Jones thing is one of the biggest ones of the season, but has this gone to a pretty much a summertime thing? Is it easier to figure things out salary cap-wise and make moves in the summer than it is right now?
Yes, it is. I think that's the biggest thing right now, that any team that's gearing up for the playoffs and trying to win the Stanley Cup, they're up against the cap, so they have to get money out to get money in, and that's hard to do. And those are the concerns of many of the playoff-bound teams that are up against the cap. We have a chance to make the playoffs still this year, but it's not a high percentage chance. We all know that, but we're going to keep competing and getting better and improving from inside with our young guys and keep building towards the future.
Will we see any other of the young guys as we go through these next couple of weeks? Will you try to get any playing time for some of those guys with the Lake Erie Monsters, as you did the other day with Michael Polyana?
There's no roster limit now after midnight, so there's no more 23-man roster. So depending on who deserves it, who's playing well in Cleveland, we could see some of our young prospects here, but that remains to be seen. It has to be earned, and there are a few guys that are playing extremely well there.
What is your hope for that Lake Erie Monsters team? Like, we were talking about them going to the playoffs, so you moved Reichel and Korpisalo to make sure they're on that roster so they can play in the playoffs there. When it gets to that point, if your team doesn't make the playoffs here, what will be the message for that team? What do you need to see out of those young guys in that pressure situation?
I think going as far as we can in the playoffs would be a great experience for any of our young players and all of them. So we also tried to make moves today to improve our club in Cleveland. We still have time to do that in the American League level. They have a different deadline. So I think it's really important that all of our young players and young prospects experience that playoff competition in the American League level, and that's why we papered Korpisalo and Reichel down today, to be able to do that, and we'll still make a big effort to try to improve our club there. We believe that we have a good chance to take a deep run in the playoffs and challenge for the championship.
Will you have, what is that, another 2 or 3 days you have for that deadline?
I think it's about a week.
Oh, it's another week, okay. See how long it's been since I've been there? I don't even remember.
Yeah. Oh, that's pretty good, Bob. Yeah. So is this, for you now, this is, I mean, it's got to have been a long couple days for you guys, Jarmo, hunkering down there and really trying to take her and see what you can move forward with at the rink. Is it kind of a long process for you the last few days?
Yeah, it's normal though. You get the late nights and early mornings around the deadline, and that's that gets the bags under your eyes a little bit bigger. But that's the business we're in, and now we're gonna start looking at things a little bit different way. Maybe do a little bit more of amateur scouting, gearing towards the draft. I've already got some games scheduled for the top prospects in the draft that we like as with our scouting staff, and we got a lot of other things going on here too. So we got meetings and just getting ready for the rest of the year.
What does that mean for you? Will you spend a lot more time now between now and the end of the season, maybe going and looking at some of those potential draft picks and things like that? Will you do a little bit more of that than watch this team the rest of the way, or how do you bide your time there?
Well, I probably both. I mean, we still evaluate our young players here very closely and see what the future plan is for them. And like I said, the playoff experience in Cleveland will definitely be a big part of our evaluation. But as I said, the draft will be huge for us again this summer, and there are some very good players available there. So I want to make sure that I help with my experience in the evaluation process. We have great scouts in place in our amateur staff, so I have 100% trust in them that they make good selections. But I do anything I can to help them out with my experience and go see some of the top guys to offer my opinion.
Well, thank you for taking a couple of minutes to join us, Jarmo. We appreciate it. We miss you here in New York, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. I don't miss you at all.
Thank you.
That is General Manager Jarmo Kekalainen of the Blue Jackets. There you heard it.
He doesn't miss us at all.
No, he doesn't. No.
I don't.
He's probably going. He'll leave town before we get back, for crying out loud. But as you heard him say, they were in there. They were working the phones. But when you don't get what you want, or if there's nothing that's going to benefit you, shut her down and wait till the summer.
You got to respect that, because you know what? I think a lot of GMs and a lot of hockey operations, they might do things just to do things, just to show something. But that's not. You're not doing that here. They have a plan. And I think that, there might be fans that are wondering, why didn't our team make a trade? How come other teams made a trade? Because nothing was available to make the club better. So that instance, you stand pat. And I think we've seen places and maybe experienced sometimes trades made just to be made. And that's no good. It's the wrong message, and it messes up your approach and moving forward. So you got to hand it to them, because it's probably they probably had some pretty good offers, but obviously nothing that moved the needle on them.
Right, and obviously they didn't feel like they had to move somebody out of here for the sake of moving them out of here,
right.
So they would take whatever they could get in return. So, and that's a good thing too, because
Absolutely.
some teams get in those situations where you look at some deals when they get done, you scratch your head and you go, "It's all I got for that guy," which usually is a message that addition by subtraction, right? One of those types of deals. So they didn't do that today. They like what they have. For now, they'll work with it through the rest of the season, and then in the summer readdress it. Let's talk about what the Rangers did yesterday, actually. They made a really big deal with the Carolina Hurricanes to get Eric Stahl, the former captain of the Hurricanes, to come here. He leaves his brother Jordan, who left Pittsburgh so he could play with his brother Eric, and then Eric says, "See you later. I'm going to go play with Mark in New York with the Rangers." So what a lucky family to be able to do all that, right?
Yeah.
But they pick him up, a veteran guy, captain, so he's a leader. They're hoping that he can be a shot in the arm for them here, heading toward the playoffs, so they can make a deep run.
He's not playing great hockey either. He's not a guy that, Carolina is in the playoff push. They're within striking distance. You think they're giving up when they move their captain. They also moved Versteeg, I think.
Yeah, Chris Versteeg got moved, and
So-
I mentioned John Michael Lyles. So they were hanging around, and the question for Ron Francis was buyer or
Stanley
seller
Cup, yeah.
or nothing, right? Because they weren't expecting to be where they are.
No.
So he had to make a decision. But after they lost the game to Toronto there
That's
the other
right.
day, that kind of had him say, "You know what? We are what I thought we are. So let's make these moves."
So, and Stahl is a good pickup for the Rangers. I think he's obviously a veteran guy. He's won a Stanley Cup, spent his whole career in Carolina, and he's that big body centerman. And we'll see him tonight up close. And he was in Rangers practice jersey this morning. He's got his Ranger blue helmet already, and he's out there with the number 12. So we'll see him tonight. I don't know how much he'll play. We don't know what situations. He was on the second power play, I think, this morning in practice. With Rick Nash out, there's a pretty big hole. But when he comes back, you're looking at a team that went to the Stanley Cup Finals. They've always been the last 4 years, really 5 years maybe. They've been in that elk of this league where they're good. They're really good, and they know what they're up against. And a player like that. And I just said at the beginning when we started talking about him that he's not having a great year. But you know what? You get into the playoffs, and it's guys like that really carry you and help you move forward. Because that experience, and we know you can't explain experience. You can talk about it all day, but until you go through it, they've been to the finals. They get this guy who's been there. It's a really nice addition.
Yeah, and one question, I guess, that was kind of thrown around this morning. Of course, it was by the media, so it doesn't necessarily mean anything. But can he keep up with the speed on this New York Rangers team?
That's overthinking.
Okay, so
I think
that was the only knock that I heard.
he's smart.
Yeah.
He's a smart player, and he you know what? He's a real competitor. I mean, he's a guy that when we see him in Carolina, the game on the line, he's got the puck, and you could tell there was frustration in his game because he wanted to win every single situation, every one-on-one battle, score the big goal. A lot of that is off him now, but he's still a competitor. So he's going to get into a team here that's got a good thing going, and that's I'm convincing myself more and more the more I talk about it.
And that's what teams like this do, right? That's what teams like the New York Rangers, they go out and they get that guy. They set their sights on that one guy, and they go get that guy at whatever cost. And if they don't get anybody else, there was a lot of talk about Keith Yandel, whether he was going to stay or go, or they're going to trade him. They said, nope, he's going to stay here. They get that one guy, and that's a luxury, I guess, when you are that perennial playoff team and you're just looking to make a little adjustment.
Exactly, and it's playoffs. It's April 10th when everything is done with the regular season and the teams are slotted and they know who they're going to play, and it's a 7-game series and they break it down. And when you turn the page and you got the Rangers and you're like, holy cow. So in the middle, they got, Brassard, they got Stahl now, they got the back end with Yandel. And they got that guy Lundqvist and that. Yeah. I mean, you got to find a way to beat this big, strong, fast team. They're going to be a team to reckon with. Everyone's talking about the Capitals, and I think that's good for the Rangers, for everyone to talk about them. They've also made some moves. It's going to be an interesting when we get into the playoffs. It's going to be interesting. But that's it's crazy that you try to tell someone that playoff hockey is a different level. Well, why don't they play like that all year? Well, it's just, I don't know what it is, but you're head-to-head for a 7-game series.
You can't. You can't.
Yeah. You can't play with
dead by
broken legs.
Right?
Yeah, right.
It's simple as that. But, here at Madison Square Garden, you could almost make the argument that the season ended the last time the Blue Jackets were in here, and that was Game 2 of the season. And, yes, they're still mathematically eligible for the playoffs, but remember the last time we were here, Jody? It's right after they had blown the third-period lead on opening night at Nationwide Arena.
I do remember.
And then the next day, before 10 minutes have come off that clock behind us, it was 3-0, and that's where the die was cast early on.
Learning experience, and that's what you have to go with. Now, if they go 16, what did we say? 16.
What did you say? 16,
3-1,
something like that.
Yeah. So they can start tonight. If you say it ended there, go on a little bit of a run here. Tonight.
Right.
And
so
they're already on a bit of one.
Could resurrect the season, right, where it looked to have ended on Game 2.
Positive guys.
Yeah.
Let's go.
But
I agree with you.
But in all honesty, this is a totally different team than the one that came in here in day 2 of the season. This Blue Jackets team, they're playing completely different. They're back to the
different.
No, sorry. Yeah, the results. That's what's
different.
No, sorry. But this team's playing differently. This team is playing like it was this time last year.
I couldn't. Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right, and it's funny. You look at this team and you think of such a bad start, and then you really think you're out of it. I mean, you think that how are we going to get out of this as a player? Because everything is so day to day. But now when you look back, 2 more wins in January, 2 more wins in December, 2 more wins in November. You got you're in a different spot, and it's so hard to think that way, and it's so hard to snap out of ruts. And this team, you're right, it was finding and practicing the right way and getting back to their identity. But I think with the expectations coming into the season, with all the excitement, and then the disappointment to start, this young group, and you mentioned on our radio show last week, this young group showed their youth, but they went through it now. They went through it, and I think now they feel good about themselves again. And that's the first thing Torch said when he got here. He said, I got to get these guys feeling good about themselves, and that was a big challenge for him. But you can see it. I mean, you can see it in Brandon Saad. You can see it in Wemberg's had a strong season. You can see it in these young kids who are Boone Jenner. I mean, all those guys wanted to be the man and make everything right, but then they were in doing that, getting nothing done. So I like where they're at. It should be, this game tonight.
Yeah,
I think it sets up for one of those. It's going to be a banger.
Yeah, this should be fun tonight. And the Blue Jackets players are talking about it this morning. They're looking forward to an opportunity to face this team again since they haven't seen them for so long. So this will be an interesting one tonight. As you think about that list you were looking at with the trades, who got better? Who do you see as the team that really did a good job of getting better and giving themselves the best chance to win the Cup? Chicago?
Yes. For me, it's Chicago.
How do they do it all the time, too, by the way? We were talking about the Rangers. They focus on that one guy. They get that one guy. If you're Stan Bowman in Chicago. You get that guy, and then you get two other guys, and you bring them in, and you're supposedly up against the salary cap. There's nothing you can do, and before you know it, bam, he's got three new players in his lineup, and he's just stockpiling.
But their salaries have been all pretty much used up.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good thing about this time of the year.
It's
right?
a quarter of the salary he's paying them. He's got 5 or 6 top players in the National Hockey League, first of all. And then he brings in parts around them. And if you look at the Stanley Cup championship team from 3 or 4 years ago, I think there's only 6 or 7 guys there that won that cup. Mm-hmm. And it's the guys you talk about, plus Hossa. Don't forget about Hossa. Right. And now you bring back the captain, Andrew Ladd. I mean, I just think that's such a smart play by them. They picked up Panarin. Where'd this guy come from? I mean, they're doing things right. And when sometimes, remember when they couldn't do anything right?
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You go into that building was empty, empty as this is right now. And but now they're back on top, and they know it. You got to make hay right now while things are going well. And I think they got better. And that's the team. They did it a few days ago. They got out in front of things, which is also an impressive thing.
Yeah.
Let's not wait. Let's go get this done right now.
Everybody was that seemed to be the theme this year, didn't it?
Florida too.
Florida.
They were busy.
Mm-hmm.
They were busy at the deadline, coming into the deadline, starting with our game, and right. I like those 2 pickups during the game. They pick up. They made the trade with Calgary, and then they made for
Hudler,
Yuri Hudler, right. Who's a veteran player, played in the Detroit Red Wings system, maybe had too big of a role in Calgary with those young guys, and now he's in an unbelievable mix of youth, veterans. He's a Czech player. He's going to play with Yager. So he's a good fit. And Teddy Purcell. Teddy Purcell, as we know, he's going to be a free agent come the end of the year. I like those pickups for them because now you've got skill and you've got more bodies around. They just traded Peary today, which was I thought he was a pretty good player. But
I thought he was
6th round pick. I was surprised at that. So Peary goes, but now they've got a good stack of young talent, and I love their youth. So they're making that push. They're a team that think they can come out of the East, and why not? They're playing that well. I don't think they've lost to Washington. I think they beat them twice this year. And Washington only has, I think, 11 losses. So 2 of those coming from the Florida Panthers. So that team, to me, also, Bob, Chicago and Florida. And I love the chain of events. It's like a reactionary thing. Once one team goes, you look at all 6 of those teams that lead each conference. Washington, New York made that deal. The Islanders, the only team I'm surprised they didn't make more of a push. Tampa might have done something earlier, did they?
I was just looking to make sure because I wanted to see if Drew Ann was the guy they were talking about all day.
Big time,
I was just looking to see if he
didn't see
anywhere,
that happen.
but I don't see him going anywhere.
And then Ottawa with Phaneuf. I mean, that was. You think of the trades that happened before,
right?
This last couple hours, boy, there's some doozies.
Louis Eriksson
starting with Columbus.
It all started with the Johansson. Louis Eriksson did not get traded today. That was something that the Bruins were making that decision. Are they going to keep him, try to re-sign him at the end of the year? Yeah. So
we overtalked that one.
Yeah,
I guess a lot of this stuff has been chopped up pretty good. Those guys on national networks started at 7:30 this morning talking trades, and it's been. I think all they've talked about is the last 4 or 5 days, right?
It's been absolutely
previous
boring.
to the trade.
So,
yeah, but Dallas too. I also like Dallas, Bob. I don't know about you, but I love the Chris Russell pickup. He's that guy. And let's not forget about San Jose. I love San Jose. I think that and everyone talks about L.A. Everyone talks about Anaheim. They picked up James Reimer, who's having an outstanding year on a bad team. Very similar to Dubnyk last year, where he was in a bad situation in Edmonton on a bad team, but playing good as a goaltender. Then he goes to Minnesota and takes them to the playoffs. He's a hero. Signs a new deal. I could see Reimer maybe getting in that position because he is such a positive guy. I know that room is such a great room. And they also picked up Polak.
Right.
Roman Polak is a solid defenseman, defensive defenseman. When you think playoffs, when you think shot block, and when you think heavy, hard minutes, stuck on the ice, can't get off, Roman Polak is a warrior. And Nick Spaulding. Those guys both came in from the Leafs who have just unloaded. I mean, they've picked up prospects, picks. They picked up a few contracts. They got Brooks Lake from the Capitals, but that deal was they had a prospect they wanted to get. So a lot of good stuff happening. I got a kick out of Mike Brown got picked up on waivers. Montreal's playing San Jose.
Yeah.
And he just went over across the locker room and put the gear on and was in
There
practice.
you go. It's like if
He got picked up at noon today.
It's like if the Blue Jackets were going to make a trade, they should have done it with the Rangers because that's the only way they'd have enough players really to play.
That's
They're-
right.
They're bare bones when it comes to players here today.
Well, there's another one, late one. Stefan Matteau from the Devils for Devontae Smith-Pelly, who's been on the move. This is his second trade this year. He actually,
Yeah.
I think this year, right? He was in Anaheim. He went to Montreal, big forward, and then Matteau, French-Canadian kid, goes back to Montreal. He's got to be excited about that. His dad, wasn't his dad in the Devils too?
Yeah, I think you're right. I'm sorry. I'm reading this, and I'm half paying attention to you and half reading this. I'll be honest with you here. But, yeah, so how would you put trade deadline day? Disappointment overall? I mean, again, the blockbusters don't get done on this day like they used to.
They were done. They were all done. There has been some huge trades. But I just love, and I said this last year, oh, there's a trade. Where's the next one? Like, it's just done. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's done. And then
Yeah.
move to the next one.
Yeah, good
It's
point.
like checking the box on trades. But there's been a lot of player movement. You think of the captains. Ladd's a captain. Stahl's a captain. Those are big
Phaneuf
decisions.
was a captain.
Phaneuf was a captain.
Right.
Those are big moves, big decisions, I think, by organizations. And, the teams that get them, picking up a pretty good asset and a leader. And I think those guys that were captains get in situations where they can now just kind of be the second row guy. It's fun. It's fun. Relax and play hockey. You haven't done that in a while. The captaincy brings a lot of details, a lot of responsibility with it. These guys get to go and have fun now. This Stahl, I mean, I could just see him now relaxing. They sent the jet to get him.
Want to make sure he was here for today, right?
Got his family. And then put him on a helicopter and brought him into the city. Just like great stuff.
That's normal
Treat everybody
routine.
like that. No, it's great.
Normal New York.
Glenn Sather.
So the Blue Jackets and the Rangers getting set to go head-to-head tonight right here at Madison Square Garden. The Blue Jackets will look the exact same as they did yesterday. No trades done for them today, although not exactly the same because their fourth line is going to change tonight. David Clarkson is going to come back into the lineup tonight and play, I do believe. Is that right?
Jared Bohl.
Jared Bohl's going to play tonight.
Yeah, those guys are both in. Reichel is not playing. And
Right.
did you say Corpusalo not playing?
No, I think he will play. I
So
said
just
he
a
was
paper
just paper
transaction?
transaction, yeah,
Okay.
for him. Rennie Bork cleared waivers earlier today.
That's right. Rennie Bork did clear waivers. Still with the organization, as we know, till now. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with him. That's one question we should have asked Yarmo.
Yeah, should have
Not that
asked
he would
about
have
that.
answered.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it would have, it's interesting to see what he did with that.
What do you see that fourth line as now with Clarkson and Bohl coming in? Because this, we talked about it the other day. They haven't been producing as a unit, and then they had a big game against the Devils, and then they kind of went right back 2 days later against the Panthers. They didn't get very much ice time, and they weren't playing well. So this is kind of a revamping of the whole line.
Yeah, they're on a short leash. I mean, two guys now that have been out of the lineup for a while. Clarkson for injury, but then gets back in. He's been ready for probably a week, so he's been anxious to get in. And then Jared Bohl, just a guy that's been waiting to get back in. And Torts said just 48 hours ago, that the speed of the game has gotten to Jared. And I don't know if Jared agrees with that. So I think that that comment might have lit a fire. And I don't think Torts meant anything. He wasn't saying Jared Bohl was done. It was just a quick comment in saying that he can get a little faster maybe. So I think Jared comes in tonight with, again, and then that fourth line, that's what you are. You are proving that you want to be that you can be in the lineup every single day.
And, hey, let's go back to the beginning of the year because I forgot about this until you just said it, about him getting a little faster.
Yeah.
That's all Jared Bohl was training to do during the offseason was get faster. Remember, Todd Richardson challenged him to do that at the end of last year
That's
so
right.
that he could play in more games. And they felt that he was doing that. But now he's fallen out of favor here recently, and that's going to be tough to sit out for all of those weeks. And you're healthy. Like you said, you're not hurt.
Yeah.
And you're practicing, and you're doing everything but playing in games. So how tough is that? You've gone through spurts where you've had to wait to get back in there.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, you stay focused, you stay ready, you try to get better, you work just as hard, and you watch the game. And then you drive home and you think, why didn't I play? I should have played. Oh, the team won, that's great, but I want to get in. Tomorrow I'm going to work harder. And you just keep doing that. And then when you get your chance, you're so excited. It's hard because you want to do everything. And you want to do it all perfect. And that's sometimes the hardest way to play. So they're going to stay simple. They're going to stay structured for the first couple games that they get to play, and then maybe after that we'll see some confidence and a little more, I guess, relaxed hockey. But maybe they can come in tonight and do it. They're veteran guys that have been through it before.
Yeah, they have. I didn't mean to make it sound like you had to sit for long stretches.
No, I took a moment there and thought about it. I wanted to get my mind around
There you go. You want to put yourself in that place.
Exactly.
You
like
did a great
an
job.
actor.
You did a great no,
I went with it.
an actor acting out his former life, what it used to be. All right, tonight the puck drops at 7 o'clock here at MSG. Jody will be on Fox Sports Ohio alongside of Jeff Rimmer. I'll be on the Blue Jackets radio network. We will have it for you. No trades for the Blue Jackets today. They stand pat, and their group will go out on the ice here against the Rangers in just a couple of hours. So thanks for tuning in to our special trade deadline edition of CBJ in 30. For Jody Shelley, I'm Bob McElligott. So long.